Hello, everyone. My name is Monica Kretschmer, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Universal Women's Network and Woman of Inspiration. And this is the Woman of Inspiration podcast, where we speak with women who are making a difference locally, nationally, and globally. It is a very special guest that I have on our show today. She is a 2020 Woman of Inspiration Rural Leader. Here with me today is Shelley Uvanile Hesch. She is the founder and CEO of the Women's Canadian Trucking Federation of Canada. So, Shelley, super great. We had this amazing green room chat, and I am so excited to be able to share your journey and why you're doing what you're doing with our listeners today. So, welcome, Shelley.
Thanks for having me on, Monica. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, I just want to first start with so, what does it feel like to be a superstar? 2020 Woman of Inspiration. What a historic year. So, what does it feel like to be recognized as a woman of inspiration, Shelley?
It's been very exciting. I've met a lot of different women and some men since I've won this award. It's opened up some opportunities for me personally, so I'm pretty excited about it. And I'm hoping that this year there'll be more women nominated for the award, and I'd like to be able to cheer them on as well.
Awesome. Well, you certainly are a supporter for women. And I know personally we have some exciting news to share with our listeners. We're going to wait till the end of the interview before we spill the beans on that and really get going. But I just want to say you represent the voice of women um, in the trucking industry. Now, how did you get started with that? You're the founder and CEO of the Women's Trucking Federation of Canada. Um, Now, let's talk about the percentage of women, first off, in that industry.
3% are truck drivers, less than 2% are diesel technicians, about 28% are office staff.
Amazing. So, in an industry that is male dominated, how have you been able to carve your path in this industry?
Well, it's a little different in our industry because, like you said, it's male dominated. And I think when I first started, the mentality was is that we had to toughen up. We had to have a thick skin to be a part of this industry. Just follow along, play by the rules, and you'll be fine. Um, a- a- and as we grew into different years now and different generations, that mentality has really changed a lot in our industry by some. And my belief is that that current mentality, women belong in the kitchen, trucking's a man's job, has to go. And we need to change our industry from the inside out in order to attract and retain new people into our industry.
Mhm. So let me ask you something. I know a little bit about your story, and I'm excited for you to share it with our listeners. But maybe you can tell me about your journey. What actually, your journey that actually got you into the transportation industry, and sort of how that evolved. So, and I think there was a significant person in your world that you were part of that journey with as well.
How I got started into trucking. Well, let me tell you, I'm the daughter of a truck driver. So I grew up bouncing around in a truck. My greatest pleasure in life was being in the truck with my dad. That was the biggest gift anybody could give me. And when I could get the chance to sneak out from school and go on the truck with dad, I was happy camper. And back then, I mean, there wasn't a sleeper bunk on a truck. So dad had a board that he had done up and he slept on the seats and I'd curl up in the ball on the floor and that's where I'd sleep. And but I wouldn't change anything. It was a lot of great time spent with my dad and memories and seeing different places and things as I was growing up. So that's kind of how I got the bug. And my dad often said that he never thought it would be his daughter that turned into a truck driver. Though he was pretty excited. And I can still remember the first time I brought one of my trucks home and my dad went out and climbed up into it and he's sitting there and he's looking around and he goes, "What are you flying, a freaking airplane? What's all this stuff for?" Because back in his day, I mean, there was just a few gauges and air brakes and stuff, and that's all there was. And now we have so much more technology on our trucks and different gauges and instruments. And he just couldn't believe it. He says, like, how do you play with all this? You're supposed to be driving, right? Dad, we don't play with it. It does its own things and has warning lights and buzzers. And so it was quite the experience for him seeing a newer ride, considering back in the day, like my dad started in a Diamond Rio and then had an old Mack truck. And back then, like the Mack was the top of the line type of truck. So yeah, so dad was definitely the biggest influence in my life when it came to trucking would be dad.
And let me ask you now, we just started the peer to peer role model for the young women, and I'm so excited to invite you to actually share that journey with the young women as they think about careers and opportunities for them when they're growing up that are not mainstream career opportunities for young women. But how old were you when you kind of thought that you really, this is where you wanted to be? Do you remember how old you were?
I really didn't come to this conclusion till later on in life. I floated. When I first got married, I was in healthcare and I did that for a little bit. But I couldn't stand to see the way our elderly were being treated in nursing homes. Um, and I worked at two different ones and I seen it was the same thing in both of them. And nobody really seemed to care, not even the owners of the nursing homes. The government didn't care because I'd lodged complaints, and nothing was done. So it really upset me. And it's just like, I can't work in this field. I can't watch this. Um, so then I started having my kids, and it was like, okay, well, I needed something part time to do or something around my kids. So I actually started driving a school bus so I could have my kids with me all the time. And then I did some coach work for a while. And then when they were old enough and in high school, I said to my husband, my second husband, I want to drive a truck. And he's like, really? I go, yeah, yeah, that's what I want to do.
And now, did he know about he knew about your childhood memories with your father and how big of an impact that had on you, so this was no surprise to him.
Yeah, it wasn't any surprise to him at all. So I did a lot of research on companies because I only had a BZ license. And I went and applied at one, and I started there driving a straight truck, a six wheeler, as we call it. I trained with them and I trained with other drivers to get my A. And then I went and got my A and I haven't looked back.
Amazing. And how many years ago have you been actually in the field of transportation and trucking?
Over 20 years.
Amazing. And so you've now been able to raise the profile for that industry for other women that are in the industry that drive trucks, but also open up the doors for new opportunities to make it a lucrative career. Like you said, school bus drivers, they can be with their kids, they can work around the schedules, and then progress into these industries with more opportunities.
Well, that's just it. And what we find is like, a lot of people say that, how can you be a truck driver when you have kids? Well, we have quite a few women that are out here driving that have kids. Autumn, for instance, is a young mother with 5 children, and she's gone Monday to Friday, but she's home every weekend. And between her ex-husband and her mama, the kids are well looked after while she's gone. She calls home. She's home for important things at school. Her employer is very accommodating to those needs.
Mm.
And we're starting to find that we do have some really excellent carriers out here who are trying to be more accommodating.
So, has it been easy to transition those accommodations for women in the industry, Shelley?
That is still a work in progress. And the thing is that basically for some of it, it applies to some of the men that we have too. We do have some fathers out here that are single parents. So trying to accommodate everybody. So I think we have some carriers that are really trying to work on that. But it's harder when we're talking long distances, to go from Ontario into California, 2,800 miles. It's not something that can be done overnight or even in a couple days. So
Mm.
there's different things for everyone. And we have a lot more regional work now. And some stuff where maybe you're gone for 3 days and then you're home. When I first started out, like driving the six-wheeler, I liked it when I first got into the industry because I did emergency expedited freight. So I might leave at 6 o'clock tonight and be in the morning in New York City delivering and coming back, and then I'd go home,
And
right?
that's how long of a drive?
Oh, mileage wise, I don't know off the top of my head, Monica.
So that's a two-step drive though. That's a, because I know that your industry is heavily regulated. We talked about this before about the actual driving times and your sleep times and your rest periods. Just like in the airline industry, when I was a flight attendant, there was wheels up to wheels down, and then your crew rest, you had to have a minimum crew rest. So I know that the trucking industry is the same, but that's what we would call a pairing, correct?
Yes, because basically at that time to go from our yard to New York City, that was one trip, and then I'd have to have a rest period, and then a trip back. So it's all in the logistics and how you do it, and when you get your rests in, and but
But
I
what
really enjoyed it.
I was just going to say, it's a beautiful way to see the country. And I know we've talked about, what we're going to talk about in the end of the podcast about some of the initiatives that we have planned with Canada in 2021, but a great way to see the country. Every major roadway across Canada by now, by the back of your hand, I'm imagining.
Yes, you can. And the funny thing about it is that somebody will say to you, um, how do I get to such and such? And you really have to sit there and think because we're just so used of going there and doing it. You've been doing it for so long. Or somebody will ask you for directions and I'll say, oh yeah, well, take the 401. You need to get off at exit 287. And then you're gonna, because we do everything by exit and mile markers, um, more so than by street names. Not that we don't know some of the street names, but it's more common to use a mile marker.
And what would you say some of your most beautiful or, some of your favorite routes to travel?
Oh, Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, they're beautiful in the spring.
Mm.
And then you have Washington and BC when all the cherry blossoms are out. It's absolutely beautiful to go through there. I love going through BC actually. I prefer running the canyon to running the Coke just because the scenery is better in the canyon. It's longer, but the scenery is better.
Mm.
So I know some drivers would disagree with me. They don't like running the canyon because of the S-bends, but I love them. So
What are the S bends? Is that when it gets really windy through some of those passes?
yeah, it's like they're just, it looks like a serpentine. They just kind of go like this, right? So and there's a
So,
couple spots if somebody's coming at you, you have to stop because two trucks can't hit the S-bend at the same time.
oh, interesting. Well, that's good to know. I know where not to be the next time on those S bends. I have to tell you, Shelley, I love highway driving. I love it. I love it. I love it. But can you tell people that are nervous driving beside a big truck? Because I love driving the highways, but I see a big truck and I always like to speed up so I can just go past them a little bit or stay right behind them. I don't like driving beside them. Can you tell those drivers that are like, okay, she's a little nervous of us, so she's going really, she's going to speed up and go ahead of us. Can you tell?
Oh yeah, I can tell because I can see in my mirrors. You know a nervous
Okay.
driver right away. And
Okay.
actually,
Not a nervous driver, but you're bigger than I am, right?
yeah, well, I think, I have some friends that have, had some close calls, just in a car, and they're just nervous of anything larger than they are. And
Hmm.
they'll speed up past a big truck and then get back in front of it. And, there's nothing wrong with doing that. You just have to be careful that when you pull back over in front of that truck, that you make sure that you're leaving at least 2 truck lengths or more before you pull back in, or that you can see all of the truck in your rear view mirror before you pull in front of it.
Mm,
Otherwise, they could accidentally hit you because they don't see you.
right. I have to say, I don't pull up in front of them. I just keep going. I pedal to the metal. I just keep driving. But I do love, and I can't wait to experience the view. I can see how exciting it is when you talk about it, your eyes light up. So this is definitely a passion of yours. But I would like to go back to a little bit about your story and starting the Women's Trucking Federation of Canada. Where did you get that passion and that drive to really start this company?
Well, I'd have to say, with my own personal experiences of, as you know, Monica, in 2005, I lost my oldest son. And then in 2006, I lost my baby. So they were very hard things, and I was trying to find some kind of focus, some kind of meaning in life, um, and how I could do something to make things better for others, and make a change, and hopefully make a difference.
Mm.
So it took me a while to kind of figure out that path, and then we're talking with friends and stuff, and some other ladies. I started Women's Trucking Federation of Canada. And I can tell you, it hasn't always been easy trying to do this because when I was in the truck full time and doing this, I was working like 120 hours a week, which was a lot of hours, and a lot of disrespect. A lot of people that thought that, you're just a truck driver, go back and drive your truck. Um, you don't have any college, university degrees with you. So I don't have anything of value. So I
Mhm.
think those were a lot of things that I had to overcome. And there's been days where I've been doing this and I think to myself, like, what am I even doing this for anymore?
Mm.
Right? Like, why am I doing this? And I will get an email or a message from some lady and sometimes a gentleman that'll tell me how much something I've done has changed them and made them go forward. And that makes me rethink and realize that even though I don't think I'm doing much of a difference, I actually am.
Mm. So important of a message for our listeners, Shelley, is that when somebody actually acknowledges your excuse me, contribution, it really does make a difference to somebody moving forward with their dreams or taking that detour, right? And it could come at the most remarkable times in the journeys that we have. And so coming out of COVID, Shelley, you've had so many personal challenges and barriers that you've had to overcome, in the past 14 years. Um, and then starting the Canadian Women's Trucking Federation. Do you think that your resilience in your personal why has helped you build the awareness for your company to keep you going and getting through COVID?
Well, most people would say it's just because I'm a stubborn bitch. That's what I get told, Monica. So I think, there's days I wonder how I do it myself. Um, I think it's pretty much general public knowledge. And, in August of 2019, I lost my husband in a tragic workplace accident. And then this May here during COVID, I lost my mother. And then in July, my father-in-law. So it was really rough. 2 weeks after my husband died, we had our first major event. It's like the second year of it. And I was actually there in attendance and I opened it up, and many people were shocked by that. But I'm a big believer in, we have to try to move forward. And if I just had sat at home, I probably would have gone insane. At
Mm.
least there, I was surrounded by my friends, my industry friends. So it did make a big difference. Um, and then we've come through the summer months, and COVID has kept me very busy. And then I can say that people kind of think that there isn't going to be anything new for them or any kind of life changes. Um, but I now have a very special someone in my life. And it's somebody that I've known for over 20 years, and we've kind of reconnected now. And so there is life after death of a spouse. And sometimes it'll just come and find you when you least expect it.
I thought I saw a twinkle in your eyes, Shelley. And by the way, I prefer the word ambitious to bitch.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. When somebody says that to me, just say, I actually prefer the word ambitious, right?
I like
And
that. I like that.
right? I think that that's a conversation, women that know what they want, that work very, very hard at achieving their goals. Why should they be, named a bitch? Like, that's horrible. We have to change that, Shelley. So
I
thank you
know, but
for
it's just,
being vicious.
yeah, I think, it's amazing how many people use that terminology and how many women, that are proud to say, I'm a stubborn, right? And it's just like, that's so wrong. To me, bitch is a female dog, right? And we are not that, and we are above that. And I think so. We need to set our sights a little higher than that.
Mm. And lead by example to those around us. So I totally agree with you, and I think there's a way of continuing to build and grow as leaders, um, but being authentic, approachable, and calling someone on it, I think, is really important. I know we had a little bit of a conversation in the green room about some things that, I mean, you're in a male dominated industry, and you shared about people sending you things, and I was shocked that people would send you things. You're a leader, you're in the public, you're a public figure, Shelley, and you have people sending you pictures that are inappropriate, and I was shocked at that, and I'm like, why do women have to put up with that?
I don't know why people seem to think it's all right to do that. It's mind-boggling to me. Um, but I've also come to learn since making a post about it on LinkedIn that there's actually some women that are doing that to men too. So I think on
Mm,
either side of the coin, it's not appropriate. Unwanted attention is unwanted attention. And if
mm.
you just send me an email or a message out of the blue that contains that, I'm sorry. Like you need some help. You definitely need some kind of counseling to figure out what your issues are that are make you doing that.
Mm. Well, let's use our voice for good, Shelley. And that's exactly what the direction that we're going to in 2021. I know you've been very active, over the past few months about a few initiatives that you are working on. So maybe you can share them with our listeners.
Well, we're very busy and very active with human trafficking. It is something I'm very passionate about. And we've been working closely with the Ontario government on some public awareness initiatives. We launched a beautifully wrapped trailer to bring awareness to this cause. So that's one area that we're in. And the drivers, well, my CV handle was Mama Trucker. So their health and well being is something that's very important to me. And we have some issues right now with washroom access, food access, which are getting really deplorable right across this country. So I have started to be very vocal, and I have now getting a lot of attention from mainstream media on these issues. And I will not stop until something's done, until things change.
Mm,
And I can tell you that I was reached out by a provincial government this morning because I guess they are seeing my public outcry and they want to set up some meetings to talk and discuss how they can do something to help. So I think sometimes being vocal is a good thing as long as you're doing it for the right cause. And I think that's what's important. Sometimes we can't be silent. Sometimes we
mm,
just have to forge ahead and do what we know in our heart is right. And hopefully with the right person, because all it takes is one person to believe in what you're doing to give you the right help.
mm. So true, Shelley. I have to say that you do only need one person to believe in you, and they will give you the fuel to fulfill the rest of your dreams and work harder. Because if one person believes in you, it doesn't matter if you're on full confidence level on that day or not. You're going to want to impress them. You're going to want to do good for them, and you do better. That one person believing you is so, so key. And I know that when we talked about, champions in your world and the impact that you're making on people, I know that that resonates with you deeply, and that people have said, they don't even know you believe in them, and you've seen so many amazing things happen. So maybe you can share a little bit about the people that are in your world as support hers and that you've helped support.
Oh, wow. There are so many of them, Monica, to be honest with you. Um, I'm a big believer in helping other people. I think it's important. Um, because the greatest thing that you can give another human being is your time, right? It's not a lot about dollars and cents. It's about the time that you're willing to give back to another human being. I
Mm,
think that's really, really important, and sometimes we miss that fact. And I've come to realize, I'm generally a very positive person. I'm very big on promoting positivity, as you probably are aware from my LinkedIn, which is nothing compared to my other forms of social media. And even when I was going through the worst times of my life, those posts never changed. I tried to keep that positivity and momentum going. Um, I have been the shoulder that people have cried on. I have heard from people and drivers in all kinds of different distress in various areas of their life. And I think that I just take the time to listen.
mm,
Um, I've been known to hop in a car and drive 2 hours to a hospital to see a driver that's in the hospital, even though I've never met them before in person,
mm,
just to go there because they need somebody, because not everybody has somebody.
mm.
So I think those little things are important. Keeping yourself real and genuine. Don't be a phony. I mean, the world has enough phonies. Be true to who you are, and don't let anybody ever tell you not to be who you are. When I first started, people were trying to tell me that you have to be more politically correct. You have to watch what you say. You have to. Well, I'm me, and it's black and white, and I don't do gray. And I think that's an important part. I mean, many people will tell me, but what attracts them to me and what I do is because I'm real and authentic.
Mm.
And I think those qualities really, really matter. And I
And
have had,
your word is your word.
yes, I don't need a contract. If you say to me, we are going to do this, this, and this, and I say, okay, I'm in, I agree to that. I'm not a believer in that paper thing, because I'm going to take you at your word. Right. And I think sometimes it's important that for some things we need to, I know we're in the business world now and everything else, but I mean, if you can't take somebody at their word sometimes, you really need to look at the relationship that you have with that person and maybe rethink where you're going.
Mm.
Because do you really want to do business with somebody that you can't trust?
And that, Shelley, is really all about business. It's all about relationships and trusted relationships. And you want to work with and do business with people that you respect and you trust.
That's just it, right? Those are the big main things. And I have some great champions for me in this industry, people that have been there right along the way. And they're the same people that I know that I can call at 3 in the morning if there's an issue, you know. So I value those. Um, and some of them have been with me right since the start of WTFC, and what started as just being a type of business relationship has turned into friendship,
Mm.
and we would do anything for each other. So I think those are important. And yes, some of them are men. They are some of my biggest supporters. So I have to, you have to look at it from both sides. Not every man out there is your enemy. Um, and I found that with some of the ladies that I've run into, like there seems to be this massive chip on their shoulder about men in general, and they're not willing to accept anything from them. Um,
Mm.
and you want to say to them, like, knock that chip off, because there are some really good guys out there that are advocates for women that want to see you succeed, that want the best for you. So you really need to think about it. And I think I love what you're doing in the fact that you're also recognizing the men, the support hers. And I
Mm.
think that's really important because often they don't get recognized, they get unnoticed. Like I can tell you when I started WTFC, besides my father, my husband was my biggest supporter.
Mm.
And if you don't have that type of support behind you, it's very hard to succeed. Right. So, because we all have bad days, and I think we don't think about it. And there's a few times where I publicly come out with a really rotten day, because people just think that everything about you positive and bubbly, and nothing ever goes wrong in your life. And so you must just think you're oh so perfect, and you have such the perfect life. Well, I don't have the perfect life. My life has been hell, but that doesn't mean I want you to have that.
Yeah.
right?
So
I want
true.
something better for you.
Mm. You are an earth angel, Shelley. And I think
Thank you,
our
Monica.
listeners would agree. Earth angel, Shelley. I also know that you have a very big support her and cheerleader at your transportation company, Sharp Transportation. So maybe you can share a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about support her, which I'm super excited to share more and talk more about, where we engage men into the conversation, because it is really such an important part to make sure, as we move forward for equality and equity, and inclusiveness, that we recognize the contribution that our male allies bring to the conversation, as equal partners.
Exactly. And WTFC would not be where it is today without the support of my boss. Actually, I call him the boss, but Sean Baird of Sharp Transportation Systems Incorporated. He's been phenomenal. He's been my biggest supporter, uh, both financially as well as personally, since I've started WTFC. And I can go to him with any problem or question, and he always has a solution and a willing ear. And he's made sure and tried to guide in the right direction. He loves everything I do. He supports everything that I do. So far today, I haven't had a disappointing look that said, "Oh no, you shouldn't have said that, Shell." So I think I must be doing something right.
Well, I think you are doing something right. And I think that's a really great segue into a special project, that we had a conversation, with, at the beginning of the year, and, how to really elevate the voices of women and to be seen, heard, and valued. COVID came through, and people were so focused on COVID conversations that the conversation, the spotlight for women seemed to kind of go like take a back burner. And so, as you know, I've been pedal to the metal to keep that conversation going. And one of my biggest dreams was, and I think we have the alignment there, is to see women on trucks, to see women really leading. And there's so many beautiful messages that we have the ability to do with our 2021 roadshow, which you will be the driver. I'm going to be your jump seat roadie, as we travel across Canada in September 2021. So, how exciting is that, Shelley?
I can't wait. I can't wait. We are going to have so much fun, Monica.
And I'm super excited because I get to see from that view. That is what it seems like. It's like 9 feet up, even to get, you need a ladder to get up to the seat, do you not?
No, there's steps on the side of the truck, Monica.
Okay, so no skirts, no skirts.
Well, you can wear a skirt if you want to give the boys a show. They'll like it.
No, I'm just really kidding. I am super excited not only to participate and really for the first time see a different perspective of Canada, but also in industry. And see how you navigate through that industry, and share it with the community, but also attract, other women to the industry that might be like curious about it, right? I'm really looking about, how we can really provide visibility, of the industry and transportation and underserved industries across Canada.
It's going to be fantastic. And Monica, I have a surprise for you too. Because once we get to a place that is a nice empty parking lot, I'll let you drive Miss Destiny Star so that you'll actually get the feel and what it looks like.
Okay, I have my excited, like, you didn't tell me that in the green room, Shelley. This is the most exciting thing in the world. Am I going to
Yeah.
have, I am so super excited. Okay, so everybody, this is going to be so much fun for the whole year. There is a mission here, of course, Shelley. There's a plan in place, and we're spilling the beans just a little bit early. But you and I have been talking for several months, about this project for the roadshow. And on International Women's Day is actually the day that we're going to unveil the graphics truck. So we're not going to spill too many beans about that just yet. But that graphics truck will be driven by you throughout Canada on your regular routes. to raise the profiles of women and the men that support her. And then we launch off our roadshow for September 2021.
Yeah, so everybody's getting a little teaser clip today as we talk about it, but all the details are way more exciting. So you're just going to have to stay tuned, watch, follow Universal Women's Network, so you'll learn more as we do the little unveils and teasers here and there.
Awesome. And I'm super excited. What a great announcement. You didn't prepare me for that. Shame on you. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. Tonight. I'm going to be so excited. And for those that are listening, this is really about committing to be a visible supporter and champion for diversity and inclusion. And Shelley, you were such a big advocate for women and for men, and really the industries that are underrepresented by women. So this is an opportunity for companies to really get on board and be part of the roadshow. So more details to follow, but Shelley, I'm super excited. You have just now made my entire year. For
You're
sure, it's
welcome.
the highlight of my year so far. But I want to thank you so much for really sharing your story, for sharing your journey. I know we're going to have many more conversations. I'm super excited about the road ahead and the impact that we have the ability to make. And, you know, I know that we're coming out of COVID, but really, if there's a will and a way, women will get it done.
That's it. We will do the job.
And it would not be a Woman of Inspiration podcast without sharing with our listeners who are some of the women that inspire you, Shelley?
Oh, a couple of the ladies that inspire me would be Kelly Henderson from out in the Nova Scotia provinces. My dear friend Jamie McMillan. She is an inspiration and has been sometimes my biggest guiding light. My very best friend would be Monique Nelson. And so the three of them have been some of the most positive influences that I've had on my life.
Amazing. And so women, I know when they see women of inspiration, and they're like, I want, how could I be a woman of inspiration? You know, so what is your definition of a woman of inspiration? I think that's really important because we're the everyday heroes that walk right beside you. So who do you see as a woman of inspiration?
I think sometimes that's really hard to answer, or even I think for women, a lot of us don't see ourselves as a woman of inspiration. I can remember when I first got nominated for this, and I called my girlfriend that had nominated me, and I was just like, "What the hell were you thinking?" Right? Like, I don't qualify for this. Like, I don't fit into this category. Um, so I think, you know, believing in what you do and being a positive influence, and whether you've helped one woman or 100 women, you are an influencer, you're a reason for change. Um, so I think those are kind of some of the things that we as women need to look at a little bit more closely, and look at ourselves internally instead of always thinking that we're still not good enough,
Mhm.
and just go for it and give it a shot because you really have nothing to lose.
Amazing. Well said. And I hope that our listeners will take all that information and think about all their accomplishments that they're doing. Nominate for Women of Inspiration coming up. Be a part of the journey that we are. Learn more about you, Shelley, and the work that you're doing to amplify the voice for women and actually the industry as a whole. How would they get in contact with you, Shelley, if they wanted to learn more?
Well, we have our website, the Women's Trucking Federation of Canada, so you can just Google that. It comes up right away. Otherwise, you can follow we have a page on LinkedIn as well as my own personal connection. So reach out through either one of those, and I'd be happy to talk to you. And it's a great place to learn a little bit more about what we do.
Amazing. And so, as we wrap up the Woman of Inspiration podcast, what an amazing interview. Lots of surprises today with the founder and CEO, Shelley Uvanile Hesch, which is our 2020 Woman of Inspiration Rural Leader. And my dear, you are a leader. Any last words for our listeners as we wrap up today?
Just believe in yourself and remember to be kind to each other.
Mm. Well said, my friend. And I will see you on the road. We have much ahead of us and lots of interesting conversations to have in 2021. Thank you for a beautiful interview. Thank you to all of our listeners. And I would invite you to share the Woman of Inspiration podcast with those women and support hers in your world that you think would benefit from these authentic conversations from leaders from across Canada and beyond who are making an impact locally, nationally, and globally. Thanks so much, everyone, and we'll see you soon.